We open up a tree, we count the rings, we see how old the tree is by counting the rings. And I always like to say nobody thinks of trees as getting older, they just keep growing, right? And as they do, more rings form. But when there's some kind of event, yeah, climate speaking, think like a year without sun, like when Krakatoa exploded. We see that in trees all over the world where the rings are smaller. They don't have as wide of a gap between them, and as it was more difficult for them to grow as much. Um, and we see that when we kind of dig into the geologic record, like when you're taking core samples, we want to see what life was like on Earth, 20,000 years ago. We get an idea of that based on the samples in the sediment. So, like when there's an extinction event, there's that layer of ash. It's all around the world that's in there. And whatever happened becomes part of the geologic record of the planet, right? So we know that, okay, here was something big that happened that changed everything. We're a lot like that ourselves, right? I believe when something happens to us, and not, I'm not necessarily a traumatic event, but traumatic events definitely leave that impact. But anything that's a life-changing event, and even good things I guess can leave that sort of trauma mark in a way, for lack of a better term. But we kind of stay in that place. There's a part of us where everything keeps going, but that mark has been left. And we just keep adding layers of sediment onto that. And maybe it takes us longer to get back to the normal growth than it was before. But we still continue to keep growing, to keep moving, to keep going. Right. And, I think of that whenever there's a major event in our lives. I think there's a part of us that kind of stays at the age of where that happened. And that's why you can see people who are old that act in a really childish kind of way. Like they never moved past that. Sometimes that's a good thing. you know? And I think about, my daughter. I had her when I was young. And so the still in what should have been my wild years, but all of a sudden, no, I'm a father now. I'm responsible. And but as a result of that, there's still like a part of me that stayed in that younger kind of phase. Now, I think that's a good thing because it keeps me able to, have fun and look at things from a more youthful perspective sometimes, as I still acquire, wisdom navigating through life. But sometimes when there's a traumatic event that gets put into our sort of geologic record of things, it can make continuing growth really hard to do. And sometimes it's things that we don't even necessarily realize that's there because it's buried under all that stuff. It's not until we start doing the work, doing the digging, that we find that ashen layer in the sediment and go, oh, okay, something happened here. Are we entirely sure what it is? No. Does it matter? No. But we know that, and we know that it changed the landscape of things. And, everything can still keep growing, and that's okay. And sometimes, there's gems that we find when we go digging for stuff. Well, what gems of wisdom, gems of growth, that kind of thing. And I think with my experience of like doing releasing, where we're welcoming in whatever we're feeling, and we're sitting with it, and we're learning to welcome, acknowledge, recognize, accept what we're feeling in the now, and then how to kind of surrender to the idea that, yeah, I feel this, and then let it go so we can start moving forward. And as we do that, it's very much like digging into our own geologic record, of our life. I always say it's peeling an onion. We're peeling each layer of the onion back, and as we do that, as we do go on our own personal growth journeys, more and more things become revealed to us of things that maybe we didn't know were there, or things are connected that we thought were completely unrelated. Then it turns out there's a big through line there, like a relationship that hurts you could have a through line to the death of a family member that you never would have associated the two things. But by doing the work, you can see that, and then you can accept it, and then you start to let go of it and grow. And those rings start to become wider again as we go through. And so that process of digging into the record, of finding out these sort of things, it reveals to us more about ourselves as we're getting in touch and we're letting go of the things that we've been holding on to that no longer serve us. And that can be, a lot of work to do. I think hypnosis allows us to do that faster, because in some ways we're always doing that. I'll talk about the scale of emotions. I think we're always cycling through that in every different area of our life. And it's just, where do we have the baseline of it set at? So that you can have the baseline set like courage, acceptance, love, and peace in one area, but then another area of life, you can be down in anger or apathy, grief, and fear. And then another, you could have it set in like anger, lust, and pride. And it's important to remember, none of these are good or bad. They just are. And that's what it's all about. It's about accepting things. It's about noticing the feeling in our body and letting it go. And so we can actually move on and heal from it and allow ourselves that bit of grace, right? And it's it's a funny thing to me to kind of think about how not only like, in the earth, in the past, in human history, how much there is that we don't know, how much there is that's been lost, that at one point people did know. And even today we're discovering these, like, oh, we have no idea how these people had this technology 1,000 years before they're supposed to. Yeah, I'm thinking of whatever that device is they found in a shipwreck that was like the intricate calculator or calendar that was like way ahead of its time with all the gears. Um, can't think of the name, but all of this stuff that it completely lost the history, like the record of that. And honestly, we see it today with things that have happened like in my lifetime. People are forgetting things and starting to create, you know, stories or conspiracies around. No, that was actually a pretty straightforward thing. And it's it's interesting to me. I mean, this seems to happen more as we go online, but it shows you how quick this can happen. So even if we're looking at our own lives, how much have we forgotten about what we've done? Just as an adult, back through our lives, how much have we forgotten? But somewhere in here, there's still a record of it. We're still processing that a lot of times. I think this comes out when people are dealing with trauma, whether, and again, it's not even something that has to be consciously known, but there's like, you know, the, the feeling of some kind of void in their lives that they're looking to fill with any sort of distraction, whether it's alcohol or drugs or sex or video games or doom scrolling Instagram. It's this sort of like, I need to look away from whatever this is inside. And when we do that, we're not doing that excavation on it. We're not letting it go. It's just staying there and festering. And we're not learning anything about ourselves. We're keeping ourselves kind of compressed by it. And with hypnosis, we can let that go. And as that comes out, as we pull out those core samples, we start to fill it back in with like all the good stuff that we've been missing: the confidence, the self-esteem, the self-love, the self-care, all of those good things that we need to grow. That feeling that I can do it and that I know I can handle. I don't need to look away from this or distract myself because I'm fine the way I am. Life is going to throw curveballs at you. It's not always going to be sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, but that's okay because I can handle it. And I think those moments too, when we feel that the most, that breakdown to breakthrough kind of thing, where it seems like everything's going wrong and you're wondering, okay, how do I keep going? At that point is when we get those kind of bursts of insight into ourselves. And it's like a little bit of ego death happening, where things So, once we do get to the other side, things are better and they stay better, even though we might face other challenges where it doesn't feel like that. So that was just kind of what I wanted to talk about today, I think. Didn't really plan out where to go with it. I just think is interesting to think about, and how hypnosis is such a powerful tool for us to get past that, and not even, working with a hypnotist. I do feel like having, a hypnotist to facilitate it can go faster. It's like taking a sledgehammer to it, where you're really blasting out, all that shit that's been stuck. But having like a regular self-hypnosis practice that you do yourself, that you can just sit with the things and welcome and then release. I think that's incredibly important for our growth, because we have this, what's the word I'm looking for here? We have an impulse, I think is what I want to say, that we do want to take the sledgehammer to, and we want to do it all at once, but it's not necessarily going to happen all at once. And we don't necessarily need to have it happen all at once. And all we need is 1%. Just 1% at a time. And that's the key to releasing. Sometimes we're going to get more. Sometimes, maybe we can't get 100%. But sometimes, especially if we are dealing with like long-term things, and there's a lot of deep seated kind of programming that no longer serves us, that we have to weed out, just go for 1% at a time, and you're going to start seeing huge changes happen super fast when you do that. But it all comes down to just being present and focusing on the now, and welcoming what you're feeling, and asking yourself, can I let this go? Would I let this go? Can I let it go even just 1%? And as that happens, you start feeling lighter and lighter, and then all of the good stuff can move in. So I think that's all for today. Thank you all for joining me. I'm Evan Baumgartner from Elliott Bay Hypnosis here in Seattle, Washington. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and follow me for more. And I will see you all tomorrow for MK Monday. So, all right. Have a great Sunday, everybody.